हमारे लिए अपने किसानों का हित सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता है। भारत अपने किसानों के, पशुपालकों के और मछुआरे भाई बहनों के हितों के साथ कभी भी समझौता नहीं करेगा। और मैं जानता हूं, व्यक्तिगत रूप से मुझे बहुत बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन मैं इसके लिए तैयार हूं।
With that, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi offered the most unambiguous counter to and rejection of US President Donald Trump's insistence on opening India's farm sector as part of his tariffs policy. I wrote a special analysis for the New Delhi-based South Asia Monitor about Modi's rather cryptic and baffling remark that he'll have to pay a heavy personal price for his stand. As is often the case with the Prime Minister, it is not clear whether he has some specific intimation of personal troubles or it is part of his frequent political grandstanding. Either way, it confirms that US-India relations are now in the doldrums, quite reminiscent of the aftermath of its 1998 nuclear test under the government of Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Here is a deep dive by Google's AI notebook LM, entirely using my analysis.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a really striking and maybe a bit cryptic comment from India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He actually said you pay a personal price rather than give in to U.S. demands on agriculture, dairy, and fisheries.
Yeah, that's a strong statement. Not something you hear every day in diplomacy.
Exactly. And it feels like a potentially pivotal moment for India-U.S. relations.
Absolutely. And we're digging into this using some great analysis from Mayak Chaya, who's a Chicago-based journalist. He really provides some useful context here.
Right. So our goal today, our mission for this deep dive, is to unpack that statement. What does it mean domestically, internationally, and what does it tell us about the dance between India and the U.S.?
It's a complex dance, for sure.
So to really get it, we need the background first. Modi said this during the centenary celebrations for Dr. M.S. Swaminathan.
Ah, yes. The father of India's Green Revolution. That's critical context.
Why so critical? Remind us about the Green Revolution.
Well, back in the 1960s, Dr. Swaminathan led this massive change in farming practices. It boosted food production like crazy, especially rice and wheat.
Staples for millions.
Hundreds of millions, yeah. Around 450 million back then.
Yeah.
It basically secured India's food supply. It wasn't just about farming. It was like a national survival thing.
Okay, so honoring that legacy, Modi says, and apparently he looked quite agitated. He said, I know I will have to pay a heavy price personally, but I am ready for that.
And this was his first really direct pushback against President Trump's criticisms, was that, which were often framed around tariffs.
Exactly.
So Modi connects this personal sacrifice idea directly to protecting India's farmers, fishers, dairy workers, saying their interests are the absolute top priority.
It's a very clear line in the sand.
A very public one, yes.
So, okay, drawing that line, what did it mean immediately for the diplomatic side of things between India and the U.S.?
Well, you have to look at the domestic angle first, or at least alongside it. There was huge pressure there.
Right.
Chaya's analysis asks, was this just political grandstanding? Or was he genuinely hinting at specific political troubles coming his way?
Either way, agriculture was off the table for negotiations.
Completely. And you have to remember, Modi already had, some serious history with the farming community.
Oh, yeah. The farm laws protests. That was huge.
Exactly. Huge protests. He was actually forced to repeal those 3 laws back in November 2021.
So after that whole experience.
Right. After that, making any concessions to Trump on agriculture, dairy, fisheries, it was just politically unthinkable for him. He couldn't risk alienating those groups again.
So that past battle really boxed him in, politically speaking, made this a red line, no matter the international cost.
Pretty much, yeah. He decided to let the diplomatic chips fall where they might, as the analysis puts it.
And where did they fall? How bad did it get for India-U.S. relations?
Well, the analysis suggests things suddenly looked maybe the worst they'd been since 1998.
1998? What happened then?
That was when Prime Minister Vajpayee's government did the nuclear tests. Washington was not pleased. There was a lot of anger, consternation.
So Modi's stance brought back that level of tension. That's significant.
It put the potential for real friction back on the table, yes. Definitely gave you some historical perspective on how serious it was.
Okay, but let's circle back to that phrase, personal price. What was the speculation? What did people think he meant?
Well, the political grapevine was buzzing, as you can imagine. Lots of theories.
Like what?
One idea was about his age. He was approaching 75, and there's this sort of informal tradition in the RSS.
The RSS, the Hindu nationalist organization.
Right. That functionaries might step down around 75, so September 17th was his birthday. Maybe he meant he'd have to retire.
But was that realistic?
Chaya's analysis says probably not. India was facing too many crises, domestic and international. Changing leaders then. Very unlikely. Very destabilizing.
Okay, so what else?
The other thought was maybe it's just Modi being Modi, his penchant for political theater. Keep everyone guessing, opponents and supporters alike.
And given he hasn't really done media interviews for, what, over a decade?
Exactly. It's not like anyone was going to pin him down and ask, Prime Minister, what exactly did you mean by personal price? That ambiguity works for him sometimes.
So the personal meaning remains a bit mysterious, but the impact on U.S.-India ties, that was becoming clearer.
Oh, yes. That wasn't a guessing game anymore. The tariff disputes, President Trump's frequent criticisms, sometimes daily attacks, it all took a toll.
What kind of toll?
You started seeing a level of distrust creeping back in. Sort of like the old Cold War days, in a way.
Wow. And remember, when this analysis came out, Trump's term wasn't even a year old yet.
Right. So the Modi government was looking at another 3 years, potentially, of this really challenging dynamic. That's a long time in diplomacy.
And wasn't a lot of the previous good feeling based on their personal connection?
A huge amount of it, yeah. Especially in Trump's first term and the early part of the second. The analysis highlights how the celebrated bilateral dynamism was really driven by Modi's personal equation with Trump.
So when that relationship soured?
It was bound to affect everything. All diplomatic engagement gets tougher when the personal link at the top is strained.
And could it get even worse?
Well, Trump was apparently quite relentless. There was talk of a lot more secondary sanctions against India.
The secondary sanctions? What are those typically?
They usually target non-U.S. people or companies, individuals, entities who are doing business with someone already under U.S. sanctions.
Ah, so it spreads the net wider.
Exactly. And the concern was if the Trump administration started targeting, say, Indian business figures or companies seen as close to Modi who might be dealing with other sanctioned parties.
That could really blow things up.
It could fracture relations even more, yes.
Yeah.
A serious escalation.